what's up, guys? We are broadcasting live, and I see attendees starting to roll in. 1, 2, here we go. We have a special event for you here today. It's 5 o'clock, it's April 22nd, and we are talking about finances. So we are not only in a health crisis, but this is a health crisis coupled with an economic crisis. And what's really important is understanding how our families in Hawaii can start to settle some of their anxiety, some of the thoughts that are going through our heads about how are we going to get through this COVID-19 crisis. Many of you saw the press conferences yesterday announcing that the mayor on our island extended the stay-at-home order all the way to the end of May. People are concerned. People have worries. So we decided to host this event today with special panelists from Hawaii USA. For those of you new to Zoom, we're just going to go over the features real quick, very easy. On the bottom, you're going to see a Q&A box. In the Q&A box, you can go ahead and type in their questions, and then we will be answering those questions as we move along. You also have a chat box. In the chat box, you can actually chat with each other. You can, chat with the panelists if you would like, but all the questions are best in the Q&A box so that we can make sure to answer it live. Or if there's a Hawaii USA representative with us that can answer it by typing it in, they'll be typing that answer in for you. So if we don't have the answers, we're going to take down your information and we're going to get those answers to you, because this is Community Resources Hawaii. And we're here to provide community resources for free to the public so that we can help one another get through this crisis together. So if you have any questions, again, go to that Q&A box. If you want to chat, you can go ahead and go to the chat box. And if you want, you can already start practicing. You can type in where you're from, where you're tuning in from. I see the numbers still rolling up. So if you're from Kalihi on the island of Oahu, if you're tuning in from Maui, let us know, because we want to know who's in the chat box, who's in this room with us, so that we can share the most pertinent information that will help you and your family. So I want to start off by introducing our panelists, our special guests, and I want to start with introducing, hold on, wait for it. Kim Dodson. She is a financial wellness manager at Hawaii USA. She has a background in working in public and private sectors in various positions related to personal finance, nonprofit management. Hey, if you guys are part of a nonprofit, she might be your person. Talent development. She graduated from Loyola University in Chicago with a Master's of Business Administration degree. So she is responsible for managing Hawaii USA's financial wellness initiatives and partnerships. The next person on our panel today is Bryan Yucoco. He is the Business Development Officer for Hawaii USA. We're excited to have him here today. He has been with the bank for 4 years. He has experience in finance, marketing, manufacturing, and he's trained in the public and nonprofit sector. He graduated from UH Manoa, woohoo, with a BA in psychology from the University of Phoenix with an MBA in e-commerce. He's also the 2019 Financial Education Champion by the Jumpstart Financial Smarts for Student Coalition. Our last panelist today is Chai Wilson. Jason Wilson is a Business Development Office Manager. He is double major in BA in business in both marketing and travel, tourism and commercial recreation. He's the CEO and founder of 808 Printing and 808 Hui. Jason has been working in finance industry for the past 10 years. He's a mentor of financial wellness for the past 8 and is currently serving as a business development officer at Hawaii USA. So I'm going to turn the time over to them. So if you guys have questions, remember, don't wait till the end. You can type in your questions right now. So Bryan, go ahead and take it away.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you so much, Andrea, for inviting us to present here to your folks today. Again, my name is Bryan Yucoco. I'm with Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. Just a little bit about us at Hawaii USA. We were actually started in 1936. We were Oahu Teachers number 3 when we first started out. And education is in our DNA. And this is kind of what we do at our credit union. We are here to help educate you and the community about personal finances. Next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about, back one, please. There we go. Today we're going to talk about finances during the pandemic. Now, we may feel that we are in a lot of out of control right now with a lot of different things going on and so forth. And so what we're here to share today are some things that you can do to kind of get control back in your life, especially when it comes to your finances. As Andrea mentioned, if you folks are chiming in, the mayor had put the shelter in place for another month. And so it's, it's really troubling times. So we're here to help put some normalcy, some control back into your lives. Next slide, please. So first we want to start off with, how are we going to do this? First and foremost, we need to inventory your assets, knowing what your checking accounts look like, how much you have in them, what your savings accounts have. Do you have any CDs or certificate of deposits, 401ks, safety deposit bonds? There's all different types of assets. Just take a list and know what you have and where it's at. Second thing you want to do is you want to get a pulse on where your money goes. Now, we've been in the shelter in place for the last month, so we haven't really, hopefully we haven't really spent a whole lot of money like we normally have done. But, it's a good idea to know where your money is currently going. Hopefully it's to the needs, where it goes on to our next point, needs versus wants. Again, needs are things that we need to essentially live and survive. For example, food. We definitely need to make sure that we have food on our tables. We also need to have shelters, a roof over our heads and so forth. So we want to make sure that, those are taken care of. Versus wants, those are the things that we kind of desire, like maybe a brand new jet ski or whatnot. That's something that is not necessarily in the cards right now, because again, we are in a position where it's day to day kind of what happens and how things are going and so forth. So we want to make sure that we classify what our needs are and make sure that we follow that. Last thing is discretionary spending. Making sure you're not spending money on things that are not necessary at this time. Don't go out and buy that new surfboard. Right now, we don't know how long this pandemic, how long this shelter in place may last. And we're not sure how long it'll take for our economy to get back to where it was. So we want to make sure that you are taking those things and taking a step back and making sure that you're not spending on things that you don't necessarily need at this point in time. Next slide, please. Now, we want you to get organized. So list your debts, your mortgage, your rent, whatever it is that you have for your living expenses. Do you have auto loans or any other types of loans? What are your credit cards? Do you know your balances? Student loans and so forth. List all your debts. Then take the next step in knowing all your balances, knowing where your money goes, knowing how much you owe and so forth. And then at the last part, know what your minimum payments are. Now, in knowing that, if you are in a position where you're like 1/3 of our population that is not working right now, it may be hard to kind of figure out, hey, how do I survive this, paying my bills and so forth? So next slide, please. What we're going to do is we're going to walk you through a process to kind of identify things. First and foremost, if you're in that position where you're not working and you're not having income come in, communicate to your creditors. Call up the people that you have your loans and credit cards with. Let them know exactly what's going on in your folks' life right now. Be very upfront. Financial institutions are here to help you. They're not here to just collect. Everybody is going through really tough times right now, so they're here to assist. Second thing is deferment, understanding what a deferment is. Now, a deferment is simply freezing your loan payments for a period of time and then picking them up at the end of the loan. So for example, if you choose to do a 90-day deferment on your loan, you won't have to make payments during that 3-month period, but your loan will increase by that amount of time at the back end. So say for instance, you had a 60-month loan, a 5-year loan. It would then in turn, if you took that 90-day deferment, be a 63-month loan. Okay. Next is forbearance, which is similar, very similar to a deferment, but there's a big difference. Typically, you have to pay back the payments once the forbearance is up. So say, for instance, you did a forbearance for 90 days. At the end of the 90 days, you'd have to pay up everything that you were supposed to pay back. Think of it like a balloon payment. And you'll be stuck with owing a lot of money at once. When you talk to your financial institutions, make sure you understand the terms and conditions because they're going to vary between each organization. And again, each organization really wants to help you out. And so with the last thing, be pleasant. It seems kind of natural to think about being pleasant on the phone, but these are very stressful times and everybody's under a lot of pressure. So again, everybody is being affected by this pandemic. If you're pleasant on the phone, things tend to be a lot easier to work with and so forth. And folks on our end, on the financial institution side, we really appreciate you folks understanding that we are going through the same things as well. So being pleasant goes a long way. Next slide, please.
Hi, this is Kim Dodson with HawaiiUSA Federal Credit Union, and I'm our financial wellness manager. And some of you may have seen the news, even just today, Pew Research Center reported that over half of low-income families are concerned that they're not going to be able to pay their bills during the month of April. And so we want to help you think about what is it that needs to be paid and what is it that you need to do first. Now, in a normal situation, you'd want to make sure that you have that roof over your head taken care of. And so mortgage or rent is going to be number one. And the next thing, if you hit enter, and you could just go ahead and put this whole list up for us, Mary, thank you, is going to be taking care of food and feeding your family. You know, utilities, keeping the lights on at home, making sure that transportation is taken care of. This is not the time to lose your vehicle, lose transportation to your work. And then when it comes to those other bills, really taking some time to think about it. Now, again, in normal situation, you'd always want to make sure that mortgage and rent are coming up first, but you may have a lender who's willing to work with you, a landlord who's willing to work with you at this time, utility company who might be working with you. So the order of this might go up or down based on what your creditors are willing to do for you. But we want to make sure that we take care of these basic necessities, the mortgage, the rent, the food, utilities, transportation, and our bills. Next, I'm going to turn it back to Bryan. He's going to address how you can protect yourself from fraud that is going on related to COVID-19. Next slide.
Thank you, Kim. So a couple of things that you want to watch out for. Right now, there are a lot of fraud and scams going on, and some things you want to keep in mind. Right now, there's a stimulus check scam where scammers are actually calling and asking for bank account information, PayPal information, or any other sensitive information, claiming that they need that information to process your stimulus check. These are all fraudulent, so please do not give any information. If you need to get more information regarding this, visit irs.gov for updates on the government stimulus checks. Second thing is the COVID-19 scams at home. Now, I haven't heard of anything on island yet, but on the mainland, there's individuals that are knocking door to door saying that they can do testing kits and so forth. These are frauds. Again, please don't give any information to these individuals. Don't even open the door if you see these guys coming, because essentially nobody's going to be coming knocking at your door asking to do any test kits as of yet. And if you're experiencing symptoms, contact your doctor. The next one is loved ones in trouble scam. This has been going on for some time, and it's been a little bit more prevalent nowadays, especially with the pandemic, where you're getting calls from supposedly family members that are in trouble. And so what they're asking for is, again, asking for money or some of your personal information. Again, please do not give any information over the phone, especially if the person is not contacting you in their typical means. If they usually contact you via phone and you're getting an email from them, something may be fishy. A lot of times what they do is they ask for money. They ask you to wire money over or send it to a third party or whatnot. And if it doesn't seem right, do your due diligence. Contact either the friends or family members that are in contact with them to make sure that they are in trouble or if they do actually need help. And remember, the whereabouts, making sure you understand their well-being. And the last thing is a charitable giving scam. Scammers are exploiting people's heart to help and impersonating charitable organizations or creating fake organizations. Before you donate, always verify the legitimacy of the organization and donate directly instead to the individual. This will help you protect yourself from being a victim of fraud. And there's also the website here at the top, HawaiiUSAFCU.com.resources education. It has more information on protecting yourself from fraud on this webpage. Next slide.
All right, so on this here savings, just thinking about, as we know, many times some of us are just having trouble making those day-to-day bills, but some of us are in a position where we do have some extra cash, and now there has never been a better time to establish an emergency savings if you don't already have one. Many financial experts would recommend that you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, but really at this time, we're talking, if you don't have any emergency savings at all, even $500 is going to make a huge difference for life matters types of moments that come up day to day. And we've been receiving many questions here about the stimulus check and, you know, whether or not I should put it all to my debt maybe at this time. Should I put it in savings? So when we are in a crisis mode, whether it is a natural disaster, whether it is some other type of emergency, you know, we would recommend trying to hang on to as much cash as possible. And it might mean just making minimum payments on other debts and loans during this time, particularly if you're not certain whether or not your future income is going to be guaranteed. So hang on to the extra cash if you are able to. And not only in your savings account, but even physical cash on hand. You know, hurricane season is right around the corner from us. And so if we get into a situation where we are caught without power or something of that nature, some of us remember being in those situations, you know, 2006, where we weren't able to get cash and we still needed to pay for goods and services. So even having a couple of $100s on cash on hand would be recommended. And so we can go ahead to the next slide. We really want to be able to get to your questions and answer the questions that you have. So let's go ahead and you know, see who's got our first question.
Hey, thanks so much, Kim. I really appreciate it. So we are going to be taking your questions live now. I want you guys to go ahead and type in the Q&A box. And if you don't have questions, then I'm going to start asking questions because I heard some things that I didn't know about. So first question, I feel this episode taught me I need to be better prepared in lowering all my debt. So any quick answers from our Hawaii USA panelists about quick things that people can do to lower their debt? I know it's like a really hard time right now, but there's probably some simple steps that people can use, existing banking tools that might exist that they could access and already start to apply this. Any thoughts, Kim?
Yes. So again, you know, really just looking at each individual situation that you have. For some families that are essential workers maybe, and they're not doubting whether or not their income is going to be impacted, now might be a great time to apply extra to your debt if you can. For other families or individuals that have a little bit of concern whether or not now is a good time to put extra to debt, you know, it might be a good time to actually hang on to the cash, and then in a few months, if all is well and you don't need it, then go ahead and apply it to debt while making your minimum payments. So it really is case by case basis whether or not now is the right time to apply extra to debt or not.
Other question. So if I have a current existing loan with my bank and I'm not totally sure if I'm going to continue to have income, do I ask them if I can have a lower interest rate, or do I start to approach them about how I can handle this now?
Well, each situation will be different depending on what's going on with your finances. So I think talking to the right loan officer, talking to your credit union to see how you can navigate and best understand what resources you have to pay your bills, create a budget. That way you can actually make sense of where you are and feel comfortable where you are.
Thank you. A question from one of the participants. Does it make sense to lower my 401k contributions right now?
It might. Depending on the situation that you are in, it might. Again, you know, a lot of it is going to be case by case, depending on how confident you are in your current financial situation and how confident you are in your future income. For some individuals, it might make sense to reduce their 401k or retirement contribution so they have that extra cash on hand to put towards bills. For others, with the market being low, if your income is secure, you may want to continue making those payments and deposits to your retirement account because you're really kind of buying at sale prices right now. So it would really depend on a case-by-case basis, depending on the individual's personal financial situation.
So what if I have a mortgage and I'm thinking maybe there's better rates out there? Should I try to refinance my mortgage now?
Refinancing now would be a smart thing to do. Rates are at an all-time low. You know, going into a 15-year fixed would probably benefit you the most. Again, you can go into a 30-year fix if it's better payments, but refinancing is the smartest thing to do in current situation. As far as another question that we get is if you should refinance your $30,000 truck or $30,000 car into that. I disagree with that. The reason being is you can actually keep your debt lower if you can continue to pay your mortgage and then snowball effect that loan that you have with that personal loan or that auto loan.
And can you explain to the participants real quick, what would the snowball effect be? So like, what would they do?
So the snowball effect, some of you are familiar with Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey created that snowball effect where you pay off your smaller debt and you actually have a psychological feeling of, I paid off my debt. You take rid of the small one. Now that smaller payment that you were paying for, say, let's say it was a credit card bill, that extra $100, now you're going to move it over to your bigger bill, which might be your auto loan. Instead of paying your minimum payment of $500, now you're snowballing your payments as a $600 and continuing there into your auto debt.
Good input. So what about if I, I have the stimulus check, I put some money aside, and I'm wondering, especially for people who are not too sure about what the city and the county is going to do. People are asking, like, do we pay our registration fees? Do we hold it and then we figure out later what we should do with it? I'm sure you guys get these questions all the time because we have our regular debts that we owe to the banks. We have debts that we owe to possible state and city entities. And people are asking, like, which one is more important? I've had landlords call me and say that their renters are saying, oh yeah, we can't pay rent. So the landlords are like, okay, well, we got to still pay our bills. So what is some advice that you have for people in these situations?
With the stimulus check, for me, take care of your big four. Number one, food. You got to eat to live. Number two, utilities. Number three, your shelter. Number four, transportation. Okay. When you don't have a paycheck coming in, you need to make a priority list. And when you don't have the money to pay all your resources, somebody's getting paid and somebody's not getting paid. But you want to make sure you can live day to day and safety. So that's the biggest issue with me of the stimulus check. If you have it all covered, saving it. If you don't have that $500 saved or that $1,000 saved, start saving. You want to start your emergency fund in case of situations of what we're going through now. A good timeline of situation of emergency fund amount is 6 months of living expense, just in case you can't get to it. You want also, like Kim talked about, having liquidity cash. You want your cash liquid as possible, including your emergency emergency fund.
And I'll just share some insight for those of you who are listening. If you need access to any type of food resources, besides Malama Meals, if you're on the West Side, I do deliveries to families that are in need. The Kroc Center produces close to 4,000 meals a week that we deliver on Mondays and Fridays, and we actually take it out into the community. There are other organizations such as small food trucks and local businesses that are helping. I would say when it comes to food, and I'm mentioning this because Chai said it was the number one, when it comes to food, see what you can access utilizing the food bank, what you can access utilizing some of the local resources, because these stimulus checks are what we personally get. But just so you know, the government is also getting checks that are supposed to be applied to COVID-19 relief help. So these checks go into community programs, and these programs are supposed to be directly benefiting kupuna and families in need. If you haven't seen, DHS has expanded its ability to give you the SNAP benefits. So there's a chance that if you're unemployed, you possibly qualify now. You may not have qualified before, but DHS has a turnaround time of 2 to 3 days. In 2 to 3 days, you could qualify for benefits. So I'm putting this out there because when you're limited on resources and food is a concern of yours, I would say for me, that's one of the easiest things to handle. So if you need help, email me. You have my email because it's on the webinar. Contact me and let me know, and I will let you know what resources are available in your community. The second thing that Chai mentioned was utilities. So utilities are things that we pay to some of the city entities like the Board of Water Supply, electricity. I think it's important for us to know how important it is to pay the utility bills. I've been working with a family just right here in our own community that got their water shut off prior to this because of not paying bills. And we're trying to get through this COVID time, and they still don't have any water in their house, which is now becoming a health problem because no one has water, and pretty soon the electricity is going to get shut off. So the utilities are something that are easier for them to just turn off like a switch, whereas a mortgage and rent, you might have a little bit more time with that. So please take your decisions in priority order as well as in a timeline order, because some of these things, like when people contact me and they're like, oh, Andria, I need to pay this rent. Can you help me find somebody to pay the rent? Whew, that one takes a while because OHA has some grants, CNHA has grants that are doing mortgage assistance, but I cannot access that in 2 to 3 days. I have to go through a application process with you, but guess what you can access in 2 to 3 days? Food. So I need you guys to know that those are the easiest resources that I can help you with if that's something that you need. Sorry, I just like went on a little soapbox, guys.
Great.
Okay.
Another question about purchasing a home at this time. If you're budget and you can purchase a home, it's a great time to purchase a home. Prices are going lower. Interest rates are at an all-time low again. And, you know, if you can make it work in your budget, yes. I mean, purchasing a home is great right now.
Yeah, I remember when this happened because we bought our home in, I think, 2010, but it was like a little bit after the recession, so the rates were low. But man, we didn't have any income. My husband was the only one working. I was at home with 2 babies. And my dad said, you know, you guys should go look into getting a home. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we don't make any money. How are we supposed to afford a home right now? But we got an interest rate of like 3.7% or something really low, a USDA loan. And we ended up getting the house on a short sale. And the neighbors that live to our right and our left of us, I mean, their houses are around 650,000, 750,000. Luckily, we got our house for 300 something thousand. But at the time, I thought that it was impossible because we didn't have any income. I didn't even have a pay stub. I was like, only my husband's working right now. I've been having babies for the last 4 years. So I was like, I don't know how we're going to qualify for any loan. So fear not. I think a lot of times the thing that's holding us back is ourselves. So don't hold yourself back because there could be some invisible obstacles that are not real obstacles. So just go into the bank and figure out if there are any real obstacles and see if there is somebody at the bank that can help you overcome that. But don't build any fake barriers in your mind. Just go out and do it. She said, preach. Okay, so another question that I have for you guys, we're just going to take a few more. I hope that you guys are, you know, thinking of some questions. I know it's a little hard on the fly. My next question has to do with if I'm not a part of HawaiiUSA and I've tried to contact my bank a bunch of times and I'm not getting anywhere with the unemployment office who doesn't answer my phone calls, what do I do? I mean, I have so many people that are like, I'm on 180 calls to the unemployment office. And I'm like, holy smokes, you've called that many times? They're like, what do people do? And they're having similar concerns with their bank, right? So they're like, we tried our bank. They said they can't help us. In fact, I called my bank just for fun. And I was like, hey, what do you guys have to offer? And she goes, oh, yes, we have stuff. She put me on hold for like 15 minutes. And she came back. She goes, oh, I'm so sorry. We have nothing to offer at this time. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, and I'm not saying it was HawaiiUSA, but I just thought I would call and ask the bank what resources they had. And so I know there are banks that are trying to get, up to date with the PPP loans or the SBA or the whatevers. But I mean, what do people do when they're like dead end, dead end, dead end?
The first thing you want to do is walk into a credit union. That's the first thing you want to do. Come and see us at the credit union. So what's one thing? Like we said again, every lifestyle has a different situation that you can try and fix it. So sitting down with somebody, and don't be ashamed. I know a lot of Hawaii people have a pride issue, but it's time to sit down, sit with someone, and actually go over the different options you have. Because I mean, depending on what options that you go through, I mean, Bryan talked about forbearance. Okay, forbearance is a mortgage option that you have, but you got to understand there's a big balloon payment. So sometimes after that 3 months that you have a forbearance, that might not work for you. You have the deferment. The deferment is an excellent program right now where you're taking that 3 months and putting it on the back end, so you don't have any payments in those 3 months. You can put your money towards your resources, the big four. So those are the things that you want to do. Is you actually want to go in. Another thing that you want to do is go through resources, financial education resources, like at HawaiiUSA FCU.com, financial education. There's great tools on there that you can actually go in, learn how to spend, learn how to save, learn how to borrow. Let us help you make your dreams come true. You have our information here, Kim, myself, and Bryan, our emails. We're always answering emails. I answer text messages early in the morning. I've been getting, since this situation has happened, it's been nonstop, and I love it. I love that people look at me as a resource and a tool to help them through this need. And, email us any questions. It doesn't matter. And we can actually help you get through everything that you need.
Bryan, were you going to add something?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources from other financial institutions as well. Some financial institutions like ourselves have a relief loan specifically for times like this. So, reach out to your financial institution, or like Chai said, reach out to the credit union. We're here to help. In addition to that, you may want to look at possibly, if you do have, say, like a line of credit, seeing if you can possibly increase that. And, they'll help float you for the time being if you're not getting paid or if you're not working right now. And in addition to that, as we said, we're taking a look at your assets, seeing what you got available. If you've got like these U.S. Treasury bonds that are sitting in a box somewhere, it might be time to cash those in. Getting a good idea of where you're at with your finances from the get-go is going to help you kind of create a better roadmap. And like Chai and Kim mentioned, each individual is different. So it's a matter of making sure you have all the pieces of the puzzle there so you can make some sound financial choices to get you into a better place.
Yes, good information. And I would say the situation is fluid. So the fact that I called my bank and they didn't have resources at that time doesn't mean they don't have resources now. And there's a lot of government entities that are saying the same thing. We didn't have resources then, we just got another stimulus check, so we have resources now. So pay attention to the fact that the situation is changing every day and see if you can reapproach something that you thought was a dead end that now is not because X resource opened up, or now they have, for example, the unemployment office has employed more people all of a sudden. So there could be a change in situation there.
Absolutely. This is just word of the wise from like my parents. If ask, get, yeah. So always talk story, keep in communication. Take a look at their websites because there's, again, like you mentioned, always constant updates. The fluidity of this pandemic is just crazy. There's no bearance on this because it's just changing dramatically. It seems like every other hour something is changing. So don't think that resource is not available. There's things that are always popping up. So keep an eye out, ask questions, and keep in contact.
Here we go, some live questions. Someone says, is it a good time to apply for a line of credit?
Applying for a line of credit depends what you want to use that line of credit for. If you're scared that you need that extra cash, it's better to work out a budget to see what kind of cash you have coming in compared to what's going on. Opening a line of credit could be dangerous because you could think that you gotta interpret your wants versus needs. And sometimes knowing what your wants are versus what your needs are will determine if you need that line of credit. Remember, opening that line of credit is another debt that you're going to put yourself into.
That was a great question. I mean, a great answer, because there is, not one answer for whether or not you should apply for that line of credit. Because like Bryan covered in his portion that he presented, there are things you're going to have to pay back later. So even though it helps you now, remember that when it does come back later, it could be more of a burden on you and your family. Next question. I have several pre-approved offers for loans from the various banks and credit unions I have accounts with. I still have all of my income and a decent savings. Should I take out loans just to be more liquid?
No, unless don't bury yourself more in debt. Unless you have a loan, like say you have an auto loan and it's at 7%, and somebody's offering you a lower rate or it's a lower payment. Yes, if it's going to better your financial situation, do it. If it's going to put you more in debt, don't do it.
Right. If the interest rate is better and for some reason it's going to help you with loans you currently have, then seems like it should be something good. But otherwise, no more loans right now.
No loans, no loans. Unless you need it for the big four. If you can't find any other way to eat, you might have to go and get that loan and, deal with it later and, work out a budget later. I mean, take care of those first four. If there's no way you can do it without that loan, then yeah. So I think that's the only time that I would do that.
And I just want to give another plug. Sorry, this is like a mom thing. Plan your meals out, okay? Because like with my children, we have a lot of waste of food if you're not sure what's for lunch, what's for breakfast, what's for dinner. So if you have kids in the DOE schools, you should be getting free lunch every morning and free breakfast every morning, free lunch every afternoon. Take advantage of that, right? Save the milks that your kids aren't drinking, use it to cook later, whatever it is. And then also, when you're planning your meals, make sure that you're using your leftovers for the next meal, that you're making sure that your produce is not going bad, because a lot of food banks are giving out produce. Like I got squash, I got green beans, and for some people, you don't know how to use it, so it just goes bad. Remember that in these times of need, you have more time than you normally would. So take out the recipe box, like start to make things you never made before, because now you have time to cook. Teach your children how to cook. My daughter's cooking fried chicken right now. She's never done that before. I hope it's not burning. So I just putting it out there for you that some of our food burden that we have is because we have bad habits. We waste food. We don't make a list of what we need at the grocery store, and we don't plan out meals for the whole week so that we make sure that we utilize what we have in the house. So quick question, and this is announcement for all attendees. I was on a call with Tulsi earlier today. She said for unemployment calls, the new phone number is 833-901-2275. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ashley. And our friends from Hawaii USA, is there anything else that you would like to share as we close up?
I think right now, you talked about being conservative, right? I think we need to take a conservative approach to this whole situation with our money, with our food, with our resources. Be real conservative right now. I think that's the biggest thing. And I want to leave you with this quote. A great man said, watch the little things. A small leak will sink a great ship. Benjamin Franklin. The little things are what's going to count in this situation, whether your finances, your budgeting, your spending, your credit. The quote, you want to keep it on top of mind, because it's very great when you're watching and maintaining and fixing the small things to benefit for a better financial future.
Nice insight. Kimberly, any last thoughts?
Thanks. Well, we have this quote here on the board. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude toward what happens to you. And in that, you will be mastering change rather than allowing it to master you. And I think at this time, you hit it on the head, Andrea, when you talked about just really taking stock. And some of us, we're going to really have to budget for the first time, maybe ever. But oftentimes, we see this freedom with a lot of our members. When they do budget, they realize that maybe they have been a little wasteful. And so just recognize that this is a tough time. We are definitely going through a tough time collectively, but there is hope, and there is a lot that we individually are in control of and that we have power over. And that is managing our finances and being serious about putting a budget into place and not wasting resources at this time.
Thank you so much. And Bryan, any last thoughts for our participants? No pressure. Everyone had a quote.
I stole Bryan's.
In these troubling times, uncharted waters. Just know in yourself, we will all get through this, together. And we're always here to assist. And again, if you have any other questions when it comes to finances, as we stated all in this presentation, everybody has a different scenario. Please feel free, reach out to us. This is what we do. This is how we help people. This is what HawaiiUSA is about. We're here to help people with their personal finances, to get them into a better place financially. And unfortunately, these sort of things aren't necessarily taught in school. So reach out to us. This is what we're here to do.
So awesome. Well, we just want to thank you guys for your time. Chai, Kim, and Bryan, thanks for being there for the community. Thank you for working for a credit union that is actually a nonprofit and there to support the people in the community. So if you guys learned something today, or if you have any questions, please go ahead and give me some feedback on that. We appreciate you, and we hope that you have a great day. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Mahalo. Easy. Bye.